Leah Bollinger.
I think we're ready, Angela.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, to the council members, this is the first time that any of you, well, except for John, have served in this role, presiding over a police officer disciplinary hearing. And it's new, and I want to make sure you understand what the process is before we get started. In some cities and towns, there is a separate board called the Safety Board that oversees and presides over disciplinary actions against law enforcement officers and firefighters, and ultimately has the decision-making authority. In the absence of a safety board, that role falls on the town council, and it's not at all uncommon in towns, in smaller towns like New Whiteland. You know, we have trouble getting volunteers to participate on other boards, and so oftentimes where there is an opportunity to have a separate and distinct board, we don't, because we simply don't have the people wanting to serve, and the town council ends up then being sort of the default body in those situations. You probably are all sort of generally aware that a police officer in Indiana has a protected interest in his or her job. You can liken it to sort of a tenured teacher that, unlike other town employees who work at will, a police officer having completed the state requisite training and having satisfied the probationary period as an officer for the town, then has a protected interest in the position. Jordan Potee is an officer with the town of New Whiteland who has met the statutory requirements for protection of his interest in his job. He is the subject of this disciplinary hearing tonight, and I assume this is you, right, sir? Okay. Marshall Reinerson has filed charges against Officer Potee, alleging that because of conduct on his part, he is guilty of a neglect of duty, a violation of rules, and of conduct on becoming an officer. You have been provided with a notice of that disciplinary action, and to my knowledge, and at least within my control, that's the only information you have been provided so far and the only document you have been given. An officer in Indiana who has protected property interest may not be demoted, dismissed, reprimanded, suffer a forfeiture of their job or a suspension beyond a period of 5 days without pay, unless that officer is convicted of a crime in an Indiana court, or upon a finding and decision of the safety board, which is you, which is the town council, upon a finding and decision of the safety board, that member has been or is guilty of one or any more of the following. And the list of offenses that would justify those types of disciplinary action are a neglect of duty, a violation of rules, neglect or disobedience of orders, incapacity, absence without leave, immoral conduct, conduct injurious to the public peace or welfare, conduct unbecoming an officer, or another breach of discipline. If charges are filed against an officer with protected property interest, that officer has a right to a hearing before this board. Officer Potee has requested the hearing. If the hearing is requested, you have to convene and hold that hearing within 30 days of the request. We are conducting this hearing well within that 30-day period of time. And that's what we're here for. That's what this is all about. Your decision tonight is to be based solely and entirely on evidence presented to you at this hearing. You are all instructed to not discuss this matter with anyone prior to the hearing this evening. The only information provided to you has been that notice of disciplinary charges that I emailed to you, along with the email instructing you not to learn any more about this or discuss it with anyone. To the extent that you may have learned anything, may have stumbled onto any information about this matter, leave that all at the door. You are to consider only what you learned through the course of this hearing, and your decision is to be based only on what is presented this evening. The hearing will proceed by Marshal Reinerson presenting his case first. It will be his burden to present evidence in support of his charges against Officer Potee, which again are neglect of duty, violation of rules, and conduct unbecoming an officer. Officer Potee will then have the opportunity to present his defense to those charges. Each party may call witnesses and direct questions to them. They each will then have the opportunity to cross-examine the other's witnesses. The hearing will proceed much like a trial. If it sounds like what you imagine goes on or have seen what goes on in a courtroom, it's very much like that. The formal rules of procedure and evidence are not applicable, but the decisions of the board may be made in a manner consistent with those rules and the purposes they serve. There may be questions of procedure as the hearing advances. You are a board, and as you understand, you act only by a majority vote. You are a committee. Neither of you have any greater authority or power than any other. But I would suggest to you that John Perrin, as the president of the council, be the one who sort of presides over the hearing, and suggest that you agree to authorize John Perrin to rule on questions of procedure if they come up, unless any one of you decides you want that question to be presented to the five of you to be decided on. So if that is all right with all of you, we would proceed with John responding to any questions related to procedure as the hearing goes on. I would expect that to be with my guidance and advice, and you may see that John and I may be talking about things as they go along. But if at any point along the way you decide that there is a question that you think ought to be voted on by the five of you, rather than decided by John alone, speak up, and we'll arrange for that to be done in the way of a vote taken and by a majority vote deciding how that decision is made. You may ask questions as the hearing advances. I think given the number of people we have here, it's a very important hearing. We want to get it right, but I don't think that the procedure or the presentation of the case is particularly complicated. If you want to ask a question, feel free. I think it would probably be best to somehow signal to John that you have a question to ask so that we maintain order, but then you will freely have the opportunity to ask questions. Don't interrupt. But at any point along the way, something comes to mind and you'd like to probe a bit further than what the parties have or what the witnesses have, that is your prerogative to ask questions. At the close of the hearing, you'll make a decision, and that could be a dispositive decision on the merits of this case, where you ultimately decide what Officer Potee's status with the town will be. Alternatively, you may decide to take the matter under advisement with a dispositive decision to come later. Okay? And certainly you don't be concerned about what that decision will be. That decision won't be made until after you've heard the entire body of evidence, but that's what will happen when the evidence closes. The burden of proof is what's called a preponderance of evidence. So we sometimes hear in a criminal case that it's a burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, or we may hear of clear and convincing evidence. Preponderance of evidence means that what has been presented and supported by the evidence is more likely than not to be true. That is the standard that needs to be proven in order for the case to be made. With that, I think we'll proceed unless you have any questions.
Questions? Nope.
Okay. So in the order of things, Marshal Reinerson will present evidence in support of the charges he has made. I would ask at this time for anyone who will be a witness to stand, raise your right hand, and take this oath. Any other witnesses? Do you intend to testify? Do you present evidence?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you solemnly swear that the testimony given by you in this proceeding shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, and I might, Glenn. No, you can sit. Sorry. Glenn Cook is here. He is an attorney from Bloomington and Martinsville, although he's not both places at the same time. Who is here to assist Marshal Reinerson with the presentation of his case. I'm sure you can introduce yourself, but I see you sitting there, and I thought as a matter of courtesy, I should let the members know who you are. Please proceed.
My name is Glenn Cook. From where are the witnesses going to testify?
Well, I hadn't given that much thought, but I think that the podium probably gives us a little bit of structure, but I don't know that the council, whether it matters if they just testify from their seat. I guess I would leave it to you to decide what you think is most comfortable. Okay, fine, thank you. We don't have the witness box like the courts do, right?
Oh, that's all right. I would call Jordan Botti. Sir, you're under oath.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes.
I think you can just testify from right there.
Okay.
Can you see me okay?
I can, yes.
Could you state your name for me?
Yes. Jordan Curtis O.T.
How do you spell your last name?
C-U-R-T-I-S-P-O-T-E-E.
And you work for the new Whiteland town?
Yes.
Is that right? And what was your job title?
Patrol officer.
How long have you worked for the town of New Whiteland?
Since November of 2023.
You admit that on March 29th, 2026, at approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, that you were on duty?
Yes.
And what were you doing on duty? What were your duties that night?
Are you specifying from 6 p.m. when I started or specific time?
So what time did your shift start?
6 p.m.
What time did your shift end?
6 a.m.
And you work as a patrol officer during that time?
Yes.
And at approximately 4 a.m., do you admit that you were sleeping while you were on duty?
I was sitting in my chair with my eyes closed, but upon when the chief entered the room and turned the lights on, I immediately looked over at him.
You were in the officer squad room of the new Whiteland Police Department, correct?
Yes.
Your body armor was removed, correct?
Yes.
It was sitting in the chair next to you, is that right?
Yes.
And you had your feet propped up, is that correct?
Yes.
And you had your head backwards and your eyes closed, is that right?
Yes.
And the lights were off, is that correct?
Yes.
And your police vehicle was parked behind the station, is that correct?
Yes.
And your police vehicle was running, is that right?
Yes.
And your police vehicle was unattended, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have an idea of how long you had been sitting in the squad room with your feet propped up and your body armor off?
On about 3 in the morning, returned back from the road.
So you want to dispute about 3:25 in the morning to about 4:06 in the morning? Does that sound about right?
Yes.
You said you returned from the road
Yes.
right, and you came in the back door of the police department and you went into the squad room, is that right?
Yes.
And you turned the lights off, is that right?
Yes.
And then you put your feet up on the chair, is that right?
Not right away, no.
Okay. Took your body armor off, put your feet up.
Yes.
You would not dispute that the lights were off that whole time between 3:25 and 4:06?
No, because there's additional lighting around my desk, so it was common for me to turn the overhead lights off.
So you deny that you were sleeping during that time?
I was not in full dead sleep, no.
How would you characterize a full dead sleep?
Not reacting to lights being turned on or noise.
And you would agree that that was the position you were in when Marshall entered the room and turned the lights off? Is that
Yes.
right? Would you agree that from January 2nd of 2026 through March 29th of 2026, you are recorded in the department offices for approximately 56 hours and 54 minutes while on duty in the squad room with the door shut and the lights off?
Yes. No, not always with the door shut or the lights off, but being at station, yes.
That's all the questions I have for him.
Officer Potee, since you are the witness and you are presenting your own case, you can cross-examine yourself. Now, I realize this may be a difficult concept, but in a lot of contexts like this, there would be an attorney who would have listened to your testimony and then could ask questions of you that are related to the questions that were just asked and answered by you. Since you are here representing yourself and are also the witness, I think the best way to proceed is for you simply to comment to the board on the questions that you just answered, to the extent that there's information you want them to know.
So it would be typical for me, roughly 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, I would go to station. And that was kind of the cool down period, the period where then I'm just staying available, waiting for calls. But prior to that, normally I would then start Circle K, start my day there, but I would always go out, conduct traffic stops, and periodically throughout the month, I will conduct the 2 to 5 parking. It was not every single shift, but it was a few weeks of the month, out of the month. For me being at station, I turn the lights off because there is strip lighting around the desk, producing enough illumination around the desk. I would have the CAD up, staying in service, so that I can still monitor the computer. If I removed my body armor, I made sure it was super close to me, and I made sure that the radio was turned up full blast. This has never been brought to my attention until now. It has never been a problem, and I've always been told that as long as we're at least doing directed patrols, we are doing parking. There was no requirement of how many traffic stops, how many traffic tickets or parking tickets. It was just based off, I would go out, conduct work, do my patrols, do extra patrols, and then early hours in the morning, yes, I would go to the station. Remaining in service, waiting if we had a call. If we had a call, I would go. But this was just never brought to my attention, and if it was, if chief brought it to my attention, I would have corrected it quickly. There's just no progressive discipline on this. It's just immediate 0 to 100. And I've not always felt most welcome here, just because of my lifestyle and for even rumors that were going around town about me, which were extremely discouraging. So I did put in for other places, and once other places for calling. This is when this all of a sudden got brought to light, and now I'm facing termination. Again, with no progressive disciplines, no remedial training, no warning, no write-up. It was never discussed, and it was never an issue, so I continued to just do it as long as I was not doing any side jobs. I was within the jurisdiction, and I thought for me, it would be safer and better to just, if I was taking my armor off, do it inside a secure facility instead of out in the general public, or even out in the general public where someone would find me, and then it's posted all, online. For the car running, there's a lot of equipment in those cars. And there have been a few times where I have turned my car off and I've seen that my computer had died. There's even been a few times my car had to be jumped. So for me, I would always panic if I turned it off and then we got a hot call, now my computer's dead and my squad car's dead. So I just asked not to terminate me.
Okay, does that conclude your statements, or what we would call your sort of questions to yourself, or statements related to the questions that were asked by Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Okay. Are you okay with me kind of?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm
Any? Okay. Okay. I guess not.
it's okay to ask. Even though we're a small town, in your opinion as a police officer, do you feel that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning would be a very important time to be out patrolling the town?
Yes. And there were times, it wasn't every single day, but there were a few times out of the week, 4 to 5 hours out of the week, I would spend some of the time at station. But there were also plenty of times, the one day that the chief walked in on me, that was a day where I probably should have used a sick day. But due to staffing shortages, my original partner I worked with, he was off. So I wasn't feeling well. And I did tell Chief I wasn't feeling well. So it was a night where I was just gonna keep myself available. If we had calls, I'm taking the calls.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a law enforcement background at all. And maybe this is more a question for Joe. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Is it typical, or is it expected or acceptable for an officer to spend his duty time in the station other than for meetings, paperwork, the sort of things that you need to be in an office for? Are they generally expected to be on the road otherwise?
I think for this, we probably ought to direct that question to Officer Potee,
Okay.
because he has been questioned and cross-examined, and he's sort of the witness in front of you now. I'm sure you have the opportunity to ask the marshal questions.
Okay.
You can ask the same question, but if you want to pose that question to Officer Potee, that's fine.
Okay. Well, then, Officer Potee, is there I guess my question is one of rules and regulations. Is that allowed for extended periods? Now, I realize, again, there are times you're doing paperwork, there's times you need the computer, you need the telephone, you need the equipment in the office. If you're not in one of those modes, do the rules allow you to be in the station for extended periods of time?
There is no rules that I'm aware of in our policy that said we could not spend so much time at the station. And I was always told that as long as we're available, we're doing our 2 directed patrols. It's a very laid back environment. And as long as we're responding to our calls, is how it's always been proceeded to me. But as far as our policy goes, there is nothing that I read that says there's a certain amount of time that we can be at the station.
Now, one of the things you said that caught my ear was you weren't all the way asleep. What does that mean?
I was aware of surroundings. I wasn't in a full dead sleep where if the lights turned on or I heard any type of noise, I wasn't gonna be prepared. As soon as the lights came on, I looked right over.
Anyone else have questions? Joe?
You were talking about progressive discipline.
Yes.
Are there policies or SOPs that specifically spell out that progressive discipline will be used?
Not that I recall, but I've always, even in times that I've done things, we've always had a chat about it, even if it was a written warning, and we would get the problem corrected. So in this case, just immediate termination. I'm not aware of that in our policies.
Okay.
I just heard that was a general rule where you have just a disciplinary, you follow through disciplinary, progressive disciplinary actions before just submitting immediately to a termination, depending on the situation.
You had also kind of talked about what your normal routine was
Yes.
while you were on duty.
Yes.
My question is there a list of expected things that you were supposed to be doing? For example, you said that you start at Circle K.
Yes.
Okay. How are those spelled out to you? How do you determine what things need to be attended to and when?
Ultimately, just, I'd start at Circle K, I would get my coffee, and then I'd go out, I'd run traffic stops. As long as, again, we didn't have calls. Go out, I would do traffic stops, I'd go out, do extra patrols, I would do the 2 directed patrols, and then occasionally, I'd go back to Circle K, and then if it was a night where I was gonna do parking, I would do parking, and then 10 back to station. It was just, the main things was traffic stops. There's no expectation on the traffic stops. It was always just, you make a few great, you make 20 great. More of the expectation was the directed patrols, the extra patrols, and for late shift parking.
That's all I have right now.
Are all council members aware of what when he says directed patrol, what he's referring to?
Maybe not.
Would you explain, please?
So a directed patrol is an actual report. So in our system, we have an extra patrol, which is just a real quick, it's a radio log that it can be looked at in the CAD, but a directed patrol is a physical report. So we would do 2 reports of a business apart and just basically, we patrolled the area and we would document what we found.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Typically, Mr. Cook would have an opportunity to redirect after the cross-examination is done. And I think my sense is he's anticipating that or not?
No,
No redirect. Okay. All right, well then, you're finished with this witness?
that would not witness, yes.
Okay.
I would call Marshall Ryers.
Okay.
I think he possessed right there. State your name.
Joe Ryerson.
What's your position?
I am the marshal of the county of Whiteland.
And how long have you been with the department?
Be 20 years and 2 more weeks.
What are your duties as marshal?
My duties is to look over the department, to do an annual budget, to get the equipment that we need, make sure that the vehicles are in good operable condition, safe condition for the officers, and to oversee the daily operations that we have for the community.
And do they also include supervision of officers?
Yes, sir.
And does it include recommending discipline of officers?
Yes, sir.
Did something occur in March of 2026 that caused you to investigate Officer Jordan Poteet?
Yes, sir, it did.
And who brought that issue to your attention?
The deputy chief, David Brooks.
And what were you told?
I was told that an officer came to him and told him that he had seen Officer Potee in the squad room with the lights out, and as he opened the door to see what was going on, he flipped the light on. Officer Potee had his feet up on the desk at this time, and his body armor was off, and his eyes were closed. I don't recall Deputy Chief Brooks saying that he was awakening from that, although Volley said, Officer Volley, who reported it, closed the door and left. At that time, he went to Assistant Chief Brooks and asked Brooks about him. And of course, Brooks had no idea that Potee might be sick or if he was sleeping. So Deputy Chief Brooks brought it to me, and it was within a couple of weeks. I don't recall the date. Is when I went in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Officer Potee was asleep.
So did you take steps to investigate after receiving that report?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do?
I got with the secretary, and I had her pull 1 month, which was March of 2026. And the calendars that we have has the hours for the month of March that Officer Potee went into the door, or went into the squad room, closed the door, turned the lights out, and then he goes out of camera. And she recorded the times that he was in there each time. It was anywhere from around an hour and a half to 5 hours on one night. So I went ahead and I had a poll for February and January, and the hours kept mounting up. And we came to a total of, I think it was 58 hours and 54 minutes.
And then did you go back and look at October as well, all the way to December?
Yes, sir, I did.
And the total time ended up being around 70 hours?
Yes, sir.
I'll show you what I marked as this one. Is that the summary that you had her prepare, that you prepared based on the videos that you reviewed?
Yes, sir, this shows the date that he went in, video stamp that had the recording, and then the time in the room, each day and date. It's all laid out there.
And is this an accurate summary?
Yes, sir.
I'll offer this. Yeah, you got enough copies for at least 4 pages.
On reviewing it, if you think it is fair, and you would look at that, you would admit it into the evidence. And so have a look at it and see if you have any questions or think there are any issues about his credibility.
This will be admitted into evidence.
Thank you. So Marshall, looking at that first page, says all dates are listed as the start date of the shift as he is referring to Potee.
Yes, sir.
Night shift, October 6th through November 27th, videos only recorded on motion is detected. So there's video cameras in that squad room,
Yes, sir, there's one.
and it's supposed to record only when motion is detected and then it stops recording.
Correct.
And it shows the dates in October and November. In October, what's the longest period of time that he's in the room in October?
In October,
Yeah.
2 hours and 50 minutes, it would be October 6th.
And how long is a shift?
The shift is 12 hours long.
And then going down, is there a time in December where it's an hour and 30 minutes in the room?
Yes, sir.
And then going to December 16th, did the camera run continuously because of the cobweb?
It did.
So the cobweb acted as a motion sensor, the camera was just always on.
Correct.
And so, beginning in December, when you would come into the squad room and turn the lights off, you can continuously watch the lights are off, let's say on December 16th for an hour and 47 minutes before you then turn the light back on.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you see on December 30th, there's two separate times. One is 30 minutes and one is 2 hours and 32 minutes.
I see that, yes.
And then January 8th, there's an hour and 55 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And on page 2, does it progress to where it's more and more time as you move through February and March?
Yes, sir, it did pick up during that month,
Where
the
it was
frequency.
pretty constant?
Yes, sir.
Did Poti ever come to you and say that he was having problems, either staying awake or not feeling well during those time periods?
Never. No.
I'll show you what I marked as Exhibit 2. You take a look at that.
Thank you.
What is Exhibit 2?
Exhibit 2 is a calendar of 2026, January, February, and also, looks like March.
And what was the purpose of preparing Exhibit 2?
Purpose of this was part of my investigation, to find out how long Officer Poti was spending on the squad room. And, it showed when he went in, shut the door, and then when he went out.
And these are times the lights are off or
Correct. That's correct.
anything on it. Does Exhibit 2 appear to be an accurate representation of the summary that you prepared? It's similar to Exhibit 1, it's just a different visual representation, is that right?
That's right, yes, sir.
I would offer Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2 is acceptable.
I'll show you what I marked 3. What is Exhibit 3?
Exhibit 3 shows October, November, and December of 2025.
And what was the purpose of preparing Exhibit 3?
The purpose of this was to go back a little bit further to see if there was any times that looked like January, February, March of 2026, which it did. However, it wasn't the frequency of January, February, and March of 26.
And is that an accurate representation? It's really a different visual representation of similar information from Exhibit 1.
Yes, sir, it is.
I'd offer 3.
3 is acceptable.
Did you also prepare some video clips for me?
I did, sir. Some of the videos I looked at, and I had our secretary, Leslie Williams, go through all of the times and dates to record all these.
Now, I have 4 video clips I would like to show the board. Now, I would call them Exhibits 4, 5, 6, and 7. Are these video clips you gave me on USB drive? And you are accurate representations of the video that
Yes,
was
sir.
then clipped? Yes.
Yes, sir.
If I could, I have my laptop
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what that depicts?
No. That depicts the squad room.
This is the
The
squad.
squad room, yes, sir.
And what happened on March 15th into the 16th in the morning?
I think the date was a little bit later where I came in.
This isn't
This
the
is
day
the-
that you came in.
Okay, this is, one of the videos of Officer Poteet coming in and shutting the door, turning the light down, and then going to sleep.
So this is March 15th.
You're free to come see this if you like.
Sure, let me back it up so we can see that.
Yeah.
Now on this video, I believe it's 27 minutes long. You see him come in, shut the door, the lights go off, it then goes to the night mode, right?
Yes, sir.
And then it continuously goes. I'm only going to show the board a clip of it so you don't have to sit here and watch the door for 27 minutes. And so it's just jumping to the last minute. That should be the end of that. Now, giving the board some context, why is the camera pointed down that way at the table there?
At the time where the table is, we had what's called a data master for an intoxilizer for checking DUIs. And since then, we didn't use it very much and it was costing us. So what we did is we did away with it. We took a vote with the department. The department says, go ahead and do it. Take it away, because we're getting blood draws, but that camera remained there. That was just to record the DUI, desk there.
And then I'm gonna show them the exhibit marked Joe enters squad room. Is this you entering the squad room?
Yes, sir.
This one here.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
It looks like your conversation with him was fairly short. You were out about a minute later.
Yes, sir, it was.
Is it then that he told you that he wasn't feeling well?
When I walked in, yes.
So, had he told you that he wasn't feeling well before that?
No, sir, he didn't. And I asked him about that.
You also have a clip that says that you're arriving. Is this just a clip showing you arriving in your car that same night you walked into the squad room?
Yes, sir.
And you can come up here for a second. So, is this you arriving here?
It is.
All right, and where is his car parked?
He's down on the end.
And the car's running,
Yes, sir.
and he's not in it?
No.
So I'll show you that one. And then you have one more that says, December 30th, alarm goes off at 1:38:45 mark. What was that?
I saw somebody, I don't recall that one.
Is this when you hear an alarm going on?
I'm not sure. Oh, that was the alarm I just watched to wake him up.
Now, on some of these we can hear audio, right, but not all of the video that you took?
Yes.
The audio ends up stop working.
Yes, it's intermittent. We've got our IT guys scheduled to look at that.
Do you ever hear him snoring or anything in any of the videos that you saw?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay. Now, at the beginning of this video, you hear some typing. When you listen to the videos, did you hear typing or other working going on?
No, sir. No, I didn't yet. After that.
number 4-7 on this drive.
They're acceptable.
Can we get a flash drive, or we'll have to have those submitted? Yes. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
For the record, could I add something?
You'll have a chance to respond.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So let's talk about the morning of March 29th. Did you go to the station that morning?
I did.
And was that because of the investigation that you had done?
Correct.
And about what time did you get there?
It was somewhere, as I recall, between 4 and 4:06 in the morning.
And were you on duty at that time?
No, it was not.
So this is something you were doing outside of your normal duty?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do?
I pulled into the back of the lot at around that particular time. And as I pulled up from the parking lot, you can see the windows in the squad room. And on your left, you can see the windows that's in the break room. Those lights were off. So as I got out of my car, I noticed Officer Cote's vehicle backed in and the engine was running unattended. So I walked through the back door, and as I walked through the back door, to the immediate right is the squad room door. It was closed. I opened the door and I flipped the light on, and I saw Officer Cote with his feet propped up in the chair. And I had a second chair there where it had his body armor and vest on. He was sitting in another chair with his head leaned back, mouth open, asleep. And when I asked him why his car was running out back, he said he was getting ready to leave. And I said, "Why are you sleeping?" And he said, "I don't feel well." I said, "Did you call Assistant Chief Brooks and let him know, or myself?" And he said, "No." And at that time, I said, "Go outside, turn your car off." And I walked out and I left. That was early Sunday morning. And then Monday morning, I called our town attorney, Lee Robbins.
Did he deny that he was sleeping?
No, he did not.
And why did you come to the conclusion that he was sleeping?
For the position that he was in, with his head back, his mouth was open when he came in, eyes were shut, feet up in the chair, and if I recall right, he had his arms crossed and his legs up in the chair.
Did he move when you turned the lights on?
He did,
Did he appear groggy at all?
very.
Did it take him a moment to get his bearings?
It did. It was apparent that he was asleep, and I woke him up.
Now, had you had complaints about his sleeping beyond what you testified about already?
No, sir, I did not.
And prior to finding him there, and then at that point, when you said that you called Lee, did you do any sort of discipline before that of him?
I did call him in and told him to resign. That he could resign if he wanted to. He had 24 hours to do it. And that if he didn't, I was going to go to the town council and ask for termination.
Now,
That was on the Monday.
is there any policy or procedure that specifically says don't sleep on the job?
No, sir, there's not.
Who trained them?
We have field training officers. I'd have to look at the records and see which officers he was with.
And he's a graduate of academy?
Yes, sir.
And what is it that a police officer does as a patrolman on a shift in the
He patrols the town. He'll look for moving violations. He'll answer calls in the community. And he's supposed to drive around town and be visible to ward off any crimes possibly that could happen by being in the areas and being visible for the community.
That's what you would have trained to do.
Yes, sir.
Is there a policy, written or unwritten, that an officer can just hang out at the squadron?
No, sir.
That's never been something that's been okayed by you or anybody else that you know of?
That's correct. It's never been okay.
And do you have a policy on having your body armor on?
Yes, sir, we do. We got a general order on that.
And what is the policy on having your body armor on?
The policy is if you're on patrol, you're supposed to have body armor on at all times.
And what is the importance of having the body armor on?
For protection for the officer, and it'll minimize any injuries that you might get. It doesn't totally 100% stop them, but it minimizes anything that would happen to him.
How many officers does the town of New Whiteland have?
We have 9 full-time and 4 reserves.
And on any given evening shift that OT was working, how many officers would be assigned to that shift?
Can I explain that one?
Yes.
We have a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift. We have a 9 o'clock to 9 p.m. shift. Then we have a 3 p.m. till 3 a.m. shift. OT works the 6 p in the evening till 6 a, which means there's 3 hours every night that he works that he is by himself.
And what about beyond being by himself? How many other officers might be on with him?
Oh, 2.
So he's either 100% of the force that's on duty or about 30% of the force that's on duty
That'd be correct.
at any given time.
Yes, sir.
And so if he is asleep with his body armor off in a squad room and he's the only officer on duty, do you have concerns about that?
I do.
What are your concerns from a law enforcement perspective?
My concerns would be that he wouldn't hear his radio, and if he did, that it would take time for him to put his body armor on and to get to the call. It would take time away. And normally with the shift that he works, we got a lot of calls, usually in the 2 a.m. to the 5 a.m. of people getting sick in the evening. So those are calls that would be major that he would get to as a first responder. Because we have AEDs in the car, we have the life vac that brings things out when people are choking. So there's a lot of things there at risk that we rely on for the officers to be ready to go.
And was there anything at the academy, did you graduate the academy?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything at the academy that would make somebody believe that it's okay to sleep during your duty as a police officer?
Not a thing. No,
What
sir.
about in any of the trainings that you've ever gone to, that it's okay to sleep on duty as a police officer?
Absolutely not.
And is there an issue with morale if one officer's sleeping and the other officers are on duty with you?
Yes, sir, there is.
What's the issue with morale?
They're concerned about their welfare in case they would need backup and he'd be asleep and wouldn't be able to perform or get out there to him quick enough.
In terms of severity of a no-no, sleeping on duty is, how would you rank it?
10 out of 10.
Completely unacceptable 100% of the time?
Yes, sir. 100%.
You don't get progressive discipline on that?
If it was, I'm gonna just say this. Everybody's falling asleep at one time or another. However, they don't make a habit of it. So there is no progressive discipline. This is just something you don't do. And it's not safe for the community.
The notice of discipline indicates the charges that are against him. One is neglected to do you think he's been elected as duty based on the facts that he testified about today?
I believe he did, yes, sir.
You also allege violation of the rules. What rules do you think he violated?
Well, the rules is that everybody's got a job expectation when they come on and they sign that. And his job duties was to patrol the area. I don't know if this is the time to bring it up, but one of those duties he's been charged with is to write 2 to 5 a.m. parking tickets. I would say something to him about that, and I noticed that they would come and go. One month he'd have tickets, next month he wouldn't have any until I had to say something to him again, then he would do it again. So his duties were failing during the times that I believe that he was probably on station.
And you say they signed that, the document he would have signed is the general order acknowledgement, is that right?
No, sir, it's not a general order. The general order does have patrol duties. However, a job description is a little bit more stringent and explains in detail what those patrol duties are. So he was aware of it and he had signed it.
And in addition to violation of the rules, there's an allegation that it's conduct unbecoming of a police officer. What is the conduct unbecoming of police officers?
All right, conduct unbecoming is that he's wavered away from what his job descriptions and his job duties are. And he's been with us a little over 2 years. He knows exactly what those patrol duties are and keeping the community safe. And that's where he failed to do that. And that was in part of the conduct unbecoming.
That's all the questions I have so far.
It would be a time when council members could ask questions, or Officer Potee has the opportunity to cross-examine Marshal Reinerson on the questions that were asked, and the council members can certainly wait until after that too.
Yeah, if you have questions, you go ahead and take the time and then we'll follow up afterwards. So if you have questions of Marshall. You have no questions? Okay. Do you have in your general orders or SOPs an actual written rule about wearing the body armor?
Yes, sir, we do on patrols, yes.
Okay. And before the night that you walked in on Officer Potee sleeping, did you have issue or reason to believe that it had happened prior to, or was it after that first offense that you did research and found that it happened?
Research before I walked in. I recall one of the comments I made to him. He said that he didn't feel good, and I said, "You haven't felt good for 3 months." That was before I went back through October, November, December. So yes, I did do my due diligence on researching it, and then the confirmation when I did walk in and I saw him sleeping.
So January and February and March incidents you had already researched prior to March 29th, I believe?
Correct. And then after the incident, I went to October, November, December.
Okay.
25.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Chief Reinerson, are you aware of any town policy or standard operating procedure for the police department that assures that it's codified that there's an assurance of progressive discipline?
You say aggressive?
Progressive
Yes.
discipline.
Yes, sir.
You are aware that there is a policy?
We got a policy at the end of each general order which says it could lead to disciplinary action or termination.
Is that an assurance of progressive discipline?
No. No, it's not an assurance. It's pretty well left up depending on what the circumstances are to what led up to whatever it is. It's a direct violation, then yes, it would be. I hope that answered your question.
I've got an answer. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
You said that there's a signed expectation of duties and a job description.
Yes, sir.
You didn't enter any of those as exhibits?
No. I do have a signed copy though.
So that would be available
Yes, sir, it is.
to us? Okay. And you're saying that you do have a signed copy of Officer Pottee's expectations of duties?
Yes, sir, I do.
How are those stored?
So they're stored in their personnel files for their signatures with the date. Then it has my signature also, and then the deputy chief's signature.
Is it a one-time signature or is it a yearly?
No, it's a one-time.
Okay. I've got a question about how did you gather the proof of estimate? For example, this information here and here. Did anybody help you, or was somebody else there, you know, that can attest that, you know, these are the times that were given? How was the information pulled?
What I did is I went to our secretary, our administrative assistant, Leslie Williams. Leslie has the cameras on her computer. I asked her to go back and look at the months of January, February, and March of 2026. And particularly on the schedule nights that OT was working, which she did. And when she brought her findings to me, and then I watched some of the videos before she got February and March done. And at that time, that's when we got all three of the months, and I think it was 58 hours, 57, 58 minutes, something like that. And then that's when I came in, I think it was on the 29th, after we gathered those up. Leslie had made a deposit, wrote them down on the calendar, and then we recorded all of it.
Okay, so that's Leslie's
Yes, sir.
handwriting.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Dennis?
No, sir.
John?
So is there a policy or a written procedure about if an officer's not engaged in paperwork, not engaged in administrative duties, what that officer is supposed to be doing?
No, it falls under control procedures. Normally when an officer comes in, they come in to do a report or to store evidence, something like that. Now, in all fairness, I have said, if you start to get sleepy or you're tired and it's snowing out, raining real hard, come in on station, turn the TV on for a little bit. I never ever dreamed anybody would come in and sleep. I never said go to sleep. I wanted them to get out of the car so that they would stay awake and they wouldn't crash one. And also Pokey did crash one, but over in a car lot into a pole. But maybe he was getting sleepy, I don't know. He said he was looking over to the right and hit a pole. However, those are the reasons that I want for safety reasons for them to come in. Now, it's an unwritten policy, but if they feel sick, I've had officers call me before, and I'd come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and took over their patrol duties and let them go home. That never happened. But there is, no.
Would it be considered appropriate for an officer to park his car at 2 in the morning in a prominent, visible place for an hour and a half or 2 hours at a time?
And back at the station,
I mean, out in the community.
oh, well, not for that long, no. What we do is the directed patrols, and let me explain that just a little bit further, I'll make it real brief. Franklin, Greenwood, a lot of other communities do it. They sit in a designated area for 15 minutes, a stop sign, or if we're having trouble, people are complaining about a certain moving violation that's happening, or speeders in a certain area. We sit there 15 minutes twice out of a 12-hour shift and monitor traffic. And that's the extent of it. And if we see something, then they go ahead and they take the appropriate action, whether it be a warning or a ticket, or whatever, a verbal warning even. So that's what the direct patrols are. Is that,
I think so. And would it be considered inappropriate to park somewhere on 31 in a very visible, prominent, lighted area for an hour at a time, or an hour and a half at a time, or 2 hours at a time?
that long answer?
That would be inappropriate.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I take it from that, it would be inappropriate then to park the car in a place that's not publicly, if it's behind a building, not necessarily the police station, but behind a church or behind a fill in the blank.
That would be totally inappropriate.
And in that situation, would it be inappropriate for a half an hour, or it's just inappropriate, period?
If they're under surveillance, looking for something, I mean, if they can articulate a good reason as to why, then it wouldn't be, but for the most part, yes. And a lot of that stuff needs to be coordinated with me, so that I know what's going on, so if I'm asked about it, I can articulate reasonably what they're doing.
Why the officer was there,
You know,
sure.
But other than that, no,
Okay,
no,
okay, thank you.
yes, sir.
Jeff?
Yeah, Officer, do you have any questions based on the questions asked by the council of Marshal Reiners? And then I think you
I have
had some
a few
follow-up.
questions based on, I didn't put this in the vacation sheet, but did you have your administrative assistant, Leslie Williams, prepare a letter about what she did?
I did on the videos that she
And is that a copy of that letter?
That is, yes, sir.
I jumped, I think, exhibits, but this is already pre-marked as number 9.
So it's 9.
Yes. And this is an accurate copy of what you typed up.
It is, yes, sir.
I offer 9.
9's acceptable.
And then I have an electronic exhibit. Is this the Town of New Whiteland Police Department Patrol Officer job description
Yes, sir, it is.
that you were testifying about?
Yes,
And that is signed by Officer Potee and you, and dated December 18th of 23?
yes, sir, and Assistant Chief Brooks.
And is that an accurate digital copy of that?
It is.
I'll show this to you. I have this on a USB drive as a digital exhibit. If they want to review it on my laptop, they can. And I can provide the USB drive.
I would like to see signatures.
I wonder how lengthy it is.
Is,
4 pages.
Okay.
is that his signature? Or does his name appear on the document anywhere else? Like up at the header or?
The marshal has testified that this is the one that he signed.
As a follow-up question, this is the one that was in his personnel file, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's fine then. Thank you.
I wasn't sure if we had that or not, I didn't recall, but I would give it to you. So it's fine.
I would offer, we can call this 8.
That's fine. We're calling it 8? Okay. Okay.
That's acceptable.
I did not mark it as 8. I have exhibit
sticker, I can give you what they
Yeah, that might be useful.
And that is all the extra questions that I have.
Is there follow-up questions by the council?
Any other questions after the follow-ups? I have anything. Okay.
It would be all right to let them both make some closing statement or argument.
Neither has any other witnesses.
Yeah, need to do that.
Does either party have any other witnesses they'd like to call?
No.
Okay. At this time, we would allow each representative to make a closing statement.
And that would be the
Yeah.
Marsh first.
I will keep mine short. We've alleged a neglected duty violation of the rules, conduct unbecoming an officer. As Marshall testified, it's completely unacceptable to sleep, be off duty that long, hours at a time, have the car parked hours at a time. There's nothing in the rules that allow for, require progressive discipline. It is allowed for, but it's not required. This rises to the elected duty, violation of rules, conduct unbecoming an officer. It causes morale issues, and it's unacceptable to be sleeping as an officer when members of the community might call on you. You have to wake up, put your body armor on, get out to the call, either assist another officer or to we ask that you find the correspondence and the evidence that we approve allegations in the notice of disciplinary hearing. Thank you.
The hours that for me being a station was no more than when you do the math, 84 hours. Normally we get an hour lunch, that's a good chunk of time I'd actually take my dinner, the early hours in the morning. With the lights being out, that does not mean I was asleep. The lights were out because I had additional lighting around my desk, and that was just enough for me to see the computer so that I could do any type of direct controls or serving reports. If I wasn't in reports, I was on my cell phone. Now, there was one thing, the alarm, that was not an alarm, that was a text message followed by a phone call. And I do want to say that Chief left out context in that conversation. He actually, excuse me, but he said, "Why was my fucking car running?" And then as he walked out, he said, "Now go turn your fucking car off," before he left. Even with the amount of time that I spent at station, in 2024, I received an award for the most tickets written. In 2025, I received an award for the most arrests. I will also add that my shift partners, while they may not be at station like I was, they would be hiding in parking lots, not always visible to the public for hours or even a few hours at a time. I just happened to go to station because, in my opinion, that was a safe place for me to be. That's the work environment. It's like a home environment. They provide indoor computers, desks, and cubbies. So if I was not in my car and I had the ability to do any type of work in the station, I took advantage of that.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
That was it.
Nothing else to present?
No,
I think that concludes the hearing.
Okay.
So at this point, the evidence has been presented. You have a few options available to you. It is the decision of this board by a majority vote of the 5 of you. As I explained to you at the beginning, discipline of an officer who has met the eligibility requirements for the process that is due an officer prior to a demotion, a dismissal, a suspension. What was the third one or the fourth one? A reprimand, a forfeiture, a suspension, or a demotion, dismissal, reprimand, forfeiture, or suspension is the decision of this board to make. The marshal proffers charges, as Marshal Reinerson has done in this case. In his notice of discipline, he has recommended to you as the safety board that Officer Potee be dismissed. He has also suspended him without pay, beginning on, I think, I've written this down, March 31st. For a suspension without pay to extend beyond 5 days, you also have to enter that decision yourself. So you have before you the opportunity tonight to make a dispositive decision to either accept the marshal's recommendation, to make a decision that is different than what has been recommended to you by Marshal Reinerson, to take the matter under advisement and give it further consideration and decide to reconvene at a meeting at some point in the future. Any decision that is made by you will have to be supported by written findings that will be adopted by you at some point in the future, that are your findings of fact based on what has been presented in the course of this hearing tonight. But those do not have to be adopted prior to your decision being made. In other words, you could make a dispositive decision tonight, and then findings of fact could be adopted by you supporting that decision at some point in the future. The decision would be made in the form of a motion, a second, and a vote. And I think that the motions that are available to you would be: one, a motion to dismiss Officer Potee. Another would be a motion to retain Officer Potee, but to suspend him for a period of time with or without pay. A motion to do both, to dismiss Officer Potee and make effective his suspension without pay back to March 31st when he was notified of this disciplinary action. The other option would be to make a motion simply to take this matter under advisement and make your dispositive decision at some point in the future. And if you have other variations on that theme or questions, this is the time to discuss that. You think there's some other action you would prefer to take, let's talk about that before any action is taken.
Any motions, questions, comments?
No.
There's no public comment.
Okay,
Thank you.
I just wanna let you know, because of state statute.
There's
you
no
gotta have
public comment. We have an attorney.
Second session.
We have an attorney. Thank you.
I think based on the frequency of the incidences, the total time of the incidences, they appear to be 2 to 3 times a week for hours at a time. I'll say a couple things. One, I do believe and I do practice in my own career progressive discipline. I would also say there are times where progressive discipline is not appropriate, where a situation or an offense or an action simply crosses the line. I believe in this case this crosses the line. If it were a single incident, I think progressive discipline would be appropriate. If this happened a single time and he said, gosh, I had the flu and I just don't feel well, that's a time for progressive discipline. This is an extended pattern of these incidences over 6 months and a situation where they're gaining in length and frequency as we go on. In my opinion, this does cross that line. And in that light, I would make a motion that Officer Poteet be dismissed.
Simply dismissed or the,
Suspension.
the going back on the
Well,
suspension?
there are two prongs, and you could do them separately.
Okay, that's fine.
I would effectively ratify the decision to suspend without pay and dismiss.
Okay.
I'll make that
That
a second
covers both.
motion if that's acceptable.
Thank you. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Based upon the totality of the evidence and knowing that the standard is preponderance of the evidence, I will second Mr. Purdy's motion.
Okay. Being a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Yeah, is there any further discussion, questions, comments by the council? Okay, just to clarify, I'd like to do a voice vote.
Sure.
Individual. I'd like to do a voice vote by individual council member. Chad?
A vote.
Affirmative?
The be dismissed.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay. It's 5 affirmative.
Okay. I will prepare and submit to you for your review findings that will ultimately have to be adopted that are sort of a summary of the evidence that was presented. I want you to spend some time with him and ultimately through some collaborative effort get a list of findings together that you can adopt that you think are the supporting facts for the decision you make tonight. That'd be a bit of housekeeping yet to be done, otherwise the matter's concluded.
Okay. This hearing is adjourned.